Report. The federal parliament's in its final sitting fortnight for the year, and the Turnbull government's eager to chalk up some victories before the long Christmas break. It's trying to get Senate crossbenchers to pass the two bills used to call this year's double dissolution election. Labor, of course, is keen to make life as difficult as possible for Malcolm Turnbull for as long as possible, as political correspondent Sabra Lane reports.
The Christmas tree's appearance in the marble foyer at Capitol Hill is a reminder the long parliamentary break's almost here. But it also heralds, usually, a ratty legislative crammed end to the year. In Peru at the APEC summit, the Prime Minister was hoping for early gifts in the form of Senate approval for two key controversial industrial relations bills.
I'm quietly confident it will pass. These are good reforms, vital economic reforms, and we will be encouraging the senators to support them.
Quietly confident is the ministerial mantra, but repeating the slogan doesn't make it so.
We're quietly confident that we're in the best possible position to successfully pass these bills.
The deplorables! Yay. To the deplorables!
The government used the two IR bills to trigger this year's double dissolution election, which helped sweep One Nation into the Senate with 4 crossbench seats.
The world dodged the Clinton bullet and holds our hope by passing this legislation we can dodge the union bullet as well, the union boss's bullet.
The two bills involve the revival of the building watchdog, the ABCC, the Australian Building and Construction Commission, and the so-called Registered Organisations Bill, which seeks to tackle union misconduct by making sure union officials are subject to the same disclosure and transparency rules that company directors have to abide by. On the weekend, Labor indicated it might vote for that last bill with amendments, but that support evaporated today.
I'm pleased to indicate that Labor will be opposing this bill.
To get legislation passed, the government needs 8 crossbenchers to vote for it. The 4 One Nation senators appear to be on side, with Malcolm Roberts launching an attack on the opposition leader.
Bill Shorten promised to run Australia like he would run a union. And frankly, that would surely mean theft of taxpayers' money, taking bribes to sell out our great nation, standover tactics, extortion reigning, extreme levels of control, and abuse if you don't do things Uncle Bill's way.
One Nation, which has, of course, claimed that it came to this place as the enemy of the elites, but we now demonstrated just how deeply anti-Labor and anti-worker One Nation is. It masquerades around as a hostility of its hostility to the elites, but has in fact become the tool of the elites.
The government's negotiating with other crossbenchers, and they're now trying to sift fact from fiction.
Right now I've had the propaganda from both sides have been coming at me. There's some amendments that we presented over the weekend, and Xenophon and I are co-sponsoring a couple of them. And I think the government is, well, they're listening.
Well, the way whistleblowers have been treated in this country, either at a union, corporate or public sector level, has been a disgrace. And it's high time we reform that. I can't see the benefit.
The Xenophon Party has 3 crucial votes in the Senate. Its leader thinks it's close to chalking up a major win on an amendment regarding whistleblower protection in the Registered Organisations Bill.
It will be the biggest change to whistleblower protection laws in this country that we've ever seen. It will mean compensation for whistleblowers under a regime that gives them real protection. It will be a radical breakthrough, and it would also mean a commitment from the government to bring this forward for the corporate and public sectors as well.
It'll get registered orgs dealt with. I suspect they'll probably get it through. ABCC is a different matter. They don't have the numbers at the moment. They don't have me, for example, and I think there's probably a couple of other crossbench senators who are not yet in the bag. They can only have 2 that don't vote with them, otherwise they don't have the numbers. So they've got some work to do.
I might get a roll in a minute.
The One Nation block of 4 votes could be splintering before our eyes, with Senator Rod Culleton appearing in the High Court this morning. It will rule on whether his election to the Senate was valid.
If I'm swatted today, like a mozzie, well then I've done my bit in Australian history, and no one can say that I haven't given it my best shot.
Thanks, guys.
Party leader Pauline Hanson, who supported the Senate's referral of Mr Cullerton to the High Court, much to his annoyance, says she's worried about him.
He is going through a tough time and I do worry about his mental condition.
My wife is a psychologist and I can tap in 24/7, and the last report I got out of her, she said I was a machine. So I'm not mentally deranged at all. In actual fact, I'm learning as we go along. It's character building.
Just like dealing with the crossbench, that's character building too. The government had wanted to end the year on a high, but it's had to push off changes it wanted to paid parental leave policy until next year. And it's still to convince the crossbench of its 10-year plan to cut the corporate tax rate to 25%. One of the crossbenchers thinks the task of herding cats through the upper house will become too hard for the government.
I think by the beginning of the middle of next year, there will be no legislation passing through the Senate that doesn't have Labor's support. It's just going to be too hard for them to get 9 out of 11 on a regular basis. It'll be an absolute exception.
It's guaranteed to be a fiery end to the year. During question time, the opposition pressured the Immigration Minister over remarks he made last week, declaring the former Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser had made mistakes in bringing some refugees into Australia during the 1970s.
Minister, which people from which country does the Minister believe should not have been allowed into Australia when Mr Fraser was Prime Minister?
Out of the last 33 people who have been charged with terrorist-related offences in this country, 22 of those people are from second and third generation Lebanese Muslim background. Now, I'm not going to allow people who are hard-working, who have done the right thing by this country, who have contributed, who have worked hard, who have educated their children. I'm not going to allow those people to be defined by those people who are doing the wrong thing and have been charged with terrorist offences or have been involved in crime otherwise. I'm not interested in the politically correct nonsense that the Leader of the Opposition might carry on with.
The Opposition's called on the Prime Minister to discipline Mr Dutton, saying the comments are disgraceful and that he should apologise. It's another distraction the government could do without.
Sabra Lane with that report.